Hi, welcome to the Recovery Daily podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and a stroke survivor. And I got to talk to my mom today, and that's an amazing day. Other than that, I just got back from walking around the neighborhood, just around 1 block away from my house, collecting rocks because I have a craft that I'm working on. Go figure. So what I'm doing is, if you've seen it on the internet, like you take a bowl and you line the inside of the bowl with stones or whatever you want to line it with. I'm using rocks, and you super glue them together, not to the bowl, but to each other. Let it dry and then remove the bowl, and you have a decorative bowl. So that's what I'm doing, and I needed a few more tiny little rocks to fill some, to just do a top edge to it. So we'll see. I have it together. So I'm just hoping it stays together when I remove the bowl. We'll see. I guess that depends on if I got good super glue or not. So that's what I did, and I'm feeling a lot of symptoms because I figured that part of this going out and doing that is an exercise to practice scanning. And I'm definitely going too far because that's what I do, as you know. But scanning is something that's really difficult for me. Looking for something is really difficult. Even looking for my dog's poop after she pooped causes my head to hurt. So, got a little bit of a headache, but we're gonna push through because I really wanted to get the podcast done early today because tomorrow is my big day, the day that we've all been waiting for, folks. I am going to see a stroke specialist. It is a neurologist who specializes in strokes. And if I had known there was one of these, I would have gone 3 years ago. But I was just introduced to this a couple months ago by the headache neurologist. So let this be a notification to you that whatever is bothering you, and it affects your brain, or it has to do with your brain, there is a specialist for that part of your brain, or that disease in your brain, or that problem in your brain. What I was told is to avoid the general neurologist, which is what I was going to and why I wasn't getting anywhere. That's what I hear. So, uh, rest assured you will have the full story of what happens with my stroke specialist. I have to ride in the car to DC, which is a little further than I have gone, I think. So it's up in the air if I'll be able to record tomorrow or not, because it's going to be a big day. So forewarning, I may have to skip the podcast episode tomorrow. I know. You don't know what to do in the morning on the way to work when you don't have a Recovery Daily podcast to listen to. I get it. Okay, so I don't know what to tell you. We're just gonna move right into the topic. So the topic today is a couple things. I'm gonna blend them together. So I went to my normal 2 meetings in the morning, and one of them was about service work and the importance of giving back. And the second one was somebody brought up the topic of, I'm sick of being sober. I'm sick of doing the work. I'm tired. And man, that hit me like a ton of bricks because I remember feeling that way early in sobriety. And I definitely had to speak up and share my experience, strength, and hope about that. So That's our topic. We're going to go back and forth. I don't know if we'll make any sense, but we're going to do it anyway. So how giving back can help you stay connected to your program, to your network, to people. And it not only helps other people, it probably helps you tenfold by helping another person, or even just freaking making coffee in a meeting. It's helpful, believe it or not. And so let's just get into it. So here we are. One of the principles of the program of AA is giving. And that is giving our time, our experience, our support to others in the program. So one thing that I heard this morning that's very true is somebody with 3 days of sobriety can help somebody with 3 hours of sobriety. It doesn't matter how long you've been in the program. There is something you can give to another suffering alcoholic. When I first joined AA, I had these ideas, and I heard somebody say this morning, and it totally resonated. I had these ideas that I was going to, once I get to the point where I can start hosting meetings and leading meetings and public speaking, eventually I'm going to become one of the executive officers of the Alcoholics Anonymous organization. And, you know, I always would call myself an overachiever. And I laugh about it, but what it really is ego. And those motivations, thinking about the program as something where I can climb that service ladder, is clearly a display of me not knowing anything about the program and why I'm there and what service is about. I didn't understand that service was not about recognition or having people know you or checking off an achievement. You're not a better sober person if you are running things, if you are being of service. That does not display anything about your character or anything. It is being of service. It is giving back what was freely given to you. It's staying connected to the folks in the community, not only for yourself to stay sober, to make it easier to pick up the phone when sometimes you have a tendency to isolate, but to also be available to other people, understanding that I'm not alone and that we as individuals are all a part of a greater whole. I talked about that yesterday when I was sharing yesterday's podcast on Facebook. I was like, I really had no idea when I was drinking that I had a role in the community of people around me. I just felt like I was this lone ranger, and we all have a purpose of experiencing life as one. And in recovery, we all are experiencing recovery together. And none of us have to go it alone. None of us have to be in a situation and have no idea how to deal with it, on our own. We can ask other people. And to feel emotionally secure, to feel like people are there for me, I have to be there for other people. I've learned that I need to give. And it helps me to remain sober, and it also helps me remain sane. It grounds me. I don't feel so much like I'm flailing around all on my own and my mind is going crazy. Like the more that I stay connected to other people, the more unity and effectiveness of my program. It really depends on that mutual understanding that we have with each other. It's a reciprocal relationship. Um, when I give, I also receive, and I give without the expectation of receiving. But when I do receive, I have a sense of belonging, of purpose, and emotional security. And here's the thing. When I heard this morning this guy talk about, I'm so tired of staying sober, like I'm tired of doing the work. It's so hard. I'm tired of having to tell people, make up excuses of why I'm not drinking. I'm tired of having to avoid things that I want to do. And I felt that exact same way. I think that as I'm talking about this service thing and my perception of what service was in the beginning and my perception of it now, I think it's only natural that in the beginning, you're feeling like, I'm doing all this work and I'm not getting anything. Nothing's changing because there is this real, that's why the first year, they say is the most difficult year because all the work is there and the rewards are just ever so slowly starting to construct themselves in the background. And it's hard to see that. I was telling the story of when I shared in that meeting about when I felt that way once. I was driving home from my job, and so I was working in Herndon and I was living in Charlestown, West Virginia. So in rush hour traffic, it was about an hour and 45 minutes to get home. And I was like at the top of the mountain. So you have to go over a mountain, over the mountain and through the woods, literally. So I was going over the mountain and I thought, that same thing. I'm so tired of this. It's so hard. It's so hard. And so I thought, I have to pick up the phone. I have to call people. That's what I was told to do. Pick up the phone and call people. So I did. I started picking up the phone and I called like 5 people. Nobody answered the phone. And people in my program, nobody answered the phone. And I was so incredibly frustrated and sad and lonely. And I never really felt like I fit in the beginning. When I was out in Charlestown, I never felt 100% like I was home when I was in those meetings. It's nothing on those people. I just didn't really connect with them. Um, but I kept coming back anyway. And that's why I feel like I was so tired of it because I was working so hard and I felt like I was not building any kind of unity and connection. Like there was no mutual understanding. I called 5 people and nobody picked up the phone. And mind you, nobody ever called me back. Never. Nobody called me back. And so it wasn't there for me. And you in early sobriety feel like it's easy to find any excuse to give up. And I don't know why I didn't. I really don't. What I do know is that the effort that I put forth to pick up the phone and call those 5 people, got me home sober. And I laugh at that because the program, maybe the people didn't answer, they didn't call me back. Nobody ever reached out to me, and I left messages and everything. Um, but the program itself kept me sober. Not the people, the program itself kept me sober. That is a powerful program. If you follow the steps, if you follow the big book and the literature, the program will keep you sober. And in that time, I knew that it was time for me to find or build or shift my network to a different area. And so I was able to do that. I shifted my network over to Loudoun County, which is where I grew up, and I felt like I was home at that point. So I think this is a good example of, if you don't feel like you're clicking, keep going to different meetings, and you will find a place that feels like home. But I went to a ton of different meetings in a ton of different places before I found my home. And it feels like a second home. Like the people that are in my meetings, my morning meetings, are like my brothers and sisters. And there's a couple grandma and grandpas in there too. And I love it. I absolutely love it. It's a family to me. And to feel that emotional security, I had to do the work. And once I was able to have a little more time under my belt, I was able to give to newcomers that were approaching with that same, I don't want to do this. I don't, it's hard. And I was able to share my experience, strength, and hope the way that I get to now. So that idea of missing drinking, same thing. I don't like to admit it, but there are times that I will have a small tinge of, I miss drinking. And before I even can complete that sentence, it even gives me goosebumps to even say that, because that's how much I don't let enter my mind. I don't let that thought, I don't invite it in. Instead, I've learned how to deflect my focus as if my life depends on it, because my life does depend on it. I do not let myself think about good things that were associated with alcohol. I don't. I know that they're there. I know that those memories of me and my best friend rolling around on the ground, totally drunk, laughing, wrestling, like that was one of our favorite things to do. Those memories are there, and I cherish those memories with her. The problem is that I felt really good when those memories were happening, and I don't want to remember that. I don't want to remember that it felt good, because that's unhealthy for me. What I have to remind myself is what happened later in the night. Did I end up driving drunk? Did I end up puking? Did I end up arguing with that same friend that I love so dearly because we were drunk? I have to fast forward through the good times and remember the stuff that hurts, because that's what's going to keep me sober. That is how I don't miss drinking. I don't miss it because that good stuff was always followed by, maybe not that day, but the next day or the next week, something. It always ended badly. It always ended badly. Losing I heard this morning, something similar to this morning. Losing my relationship with alcohol was like losing a relationship with a boyfriend. I remember being in college and there was this boy. He was in a fraternity. And I thought I thought everything was fine. I thought we were having a great relationship. I was totally grooving on him, and I thought he was totally grooving on me. And I thought things were good. And then all of a sudden, he just broke up with me. I was devastated. I was devastated. I was so heartbroken and empty on the inside. And, um, and then as time, days pass, weeks start passing, and I start seeing that boy with another sorority girl. And I remember feeling jealous. I remember feeling sorry for myself. And I remember having these rebound obsessions with new boys, where I would try to fill the void with something else. And of course, it didn't take me long because I was drinking constantly through college, constantly. It was constant. I was never not drinking in college. And so there was only so deep I could feel about these boys. But I remember just trying to deflect, and what I realized is that I can't pretend that the feelings aren't there. I need to acknowledge that they're there and know what to do when they knock on the back door, you know? So what does that mean? Like when I was grieving losing this boyfriend, the right thing for me to do was to talk about it with some of my sorority sisters and um and get busy, do my homework, right? Do my homework. Go hang out with girls, and that's not what I did. Today I know this boyfriend, alcohol. I know that when those thoughts come back in my mind about how much I enjoyed being with him, I I find new things that I love more. And back then, I loved those girlfriends way more than those boys, but I didn't know any better. I did the wrong things. I reached for a drink and I reached for another boy. That's all. Today, when I don't have my boyfriend alcohol, I don't reach for a drink. I don't reach for another unhealthy habit, my old behaviors. Today, I have the tools in my toolbox that I have learned in my program, and it typically starts with reaching out to somebody, probably my sponsor, who I have on my list to call today. So this strategy has been a lifesaver for me. It's playing the tape forward, which is what I hear a lot. Whenever I start to romanticize the drink, I think about some of those terrible memories that I talked about yesterday, those dark moments that I shared about with you, where I just felt this just complete and utter emptiness, like I was dead on the inside. I mean, I know that's terrible to hear, but that's what I felt like. I felt like I didn't have any life in me. Um, and when I do that, it snaps me back into reality, reminding me that drinking causes destructive behavior, that I inflict on myself. And by doing this over and over and over again for over 8 years now, I've made it a habit of pushing those thoughts aside and focusing on the positive aspects of my new life. It is building a habit. That's what it is. To be able to get yourself from those thoughts to new thoughts is a habit that needs to be built. And for me, that's what I needed to do. So the point, how does this all tie back to service? When we give ourselves, whether it's going to meetings and sharing our story, supporting a newcomer, or just being present, like you're being of service when you're showing up to the meeting, we build a new purpose in our lives. And we're not just staying sober. The longer that you let it happen, it just starts to become more meaningful. And those gifts that I said were being constructed in the background, like I can almost envision it like a digital cartoon. Like it just starts to fill in the gaps, behind you that holds you. And again, service isn't just about helping others. It is helping ourselves and staying on track, being engaged in the program when maybe there's not a meeting going on, So staying connected really is attending meetings, sharing your story, volunteering for service positions, and reaching out to newcomers. You start to realize that it's not all about me anymore. There are times that I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about somebody else and what they shared in a meeting. And just yesterday, in fact, I created this postcard for one of my friends because she had lost her mom. So I thought this is going to make her feel good. And that makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I am nurturing that relationship. And that's what I need. I need these relationships in order to continue my recovery journey, because it's not just mine. It's not my recovery journey. It's our recovery journey. So I try to acknowledge the tough moments, like it's, it's hard work. What I'm doing is hard work. I told you I talked to my mom today, and she was talking about how much work I'm doing on myself, that I am fully just all in on my own recovery. And it makes me feel like I wish I didn't have to be all in on my recovery. I wish I had stuff to spare, and I do. It turns out I do. But some days it doesn't feel like it. When I don't feel good, I feel like I don't have anything to spare for other people. But when I do, I try to give. I do. I really do try to give, because that's how I feel like I am able to stay connected with people, especially when I don't go anywhere. Everything I do is virtual now, And speaking of that, I have a vestibular support group meeting that started 10 minutes ago. So that's a wrap on the podcast episode today. Wish me luck on my stroke specialist appointment tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. I don't know what I'm expecting to happen, but I feel nervous energy. So I'm sure everything will be okay. Thank you so much for listening to the Recovery Daily podcast. I will talk to you maybe tomorrow, definitely the next day.